BarTalks. Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time. Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time.
I've been involved because of the simple fact that I feel like it's kind of like it's my responsibility to society. So me getting involved in the community was almost like a byproduct. And I got in, it's funny how I got into politics all because I had a problem. And it was an awakening. And I think that'll kind of lead us to, I think the first thing this panel should talk about. You know, because once I found out when I got into politics is there was an absence of young black men who were involved in the political process, who had a seat at the table as far as making those voting decisions. And so what do you feel like, why do you feel, from this panel, why do you feel like right now black men don't vote? And the number one thing I see, especially looking at my numbers and looking at who voted for me and looking at the statistics, there's a large percentage of black women who vote, but there's a large percentage of black men who don't vote. So why do y'all think that is?
Well, I guess I'll take a stab at that. I believe the reason why, as you say, black men don't vote, it has to do, one, with studies have shown that there is a high incarceration rate of black males. As we know, once you are convicted, you cannot vote. So I think that is one component as to why they're not eligible to vote, so eligibility. I think another reason why is, in some cases, depending on where you are geographically, especially where I'm from and how I was raised, just a lack of knowledge. I'm not saying that they are not smarter or less smart than the other man. I think it's just a lack of knowledge on the political process and how important the legislative process is to the American people. I think that is one of the main reasons why voter turnout tends to be less amongst black men, and more so geographically, depending on where you are. That may not be what they feel to be important. And let me elaborate on that. Growing up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, the population is around 120,000 residents. Spring Lake, next city over, the population is about 14,000 residents. And out of that, I want to say about 35 to 42%, somewhere around, I think it's 37%, are convicted felons. So just right there, only 73% of your population can vote anyways, right? So furthermore, in their mind, they feel as if, why should I vote? My voice doesn't count. And when you have one person think that way, and it spreads, because bad things spread quicker than good things do. You have a multitude that think this way. And I can speak from experience about that because I grew up thinking that maybe I shouldn't vote. And I didn't vote until I actually, I was in the military actually. I was 22 when I first voted. I was eligible to vote at 18. So I was a part of that environment of, why should I vote? It's not that important. They don't hear my voice. And so, yeah, to answer your question in a nutshell, I think that the recidivism rate, which inevitably affects eligibility, is one reason why. And then, of course, having knowledge as to the legislative process. You have those people that are of our profession or higher that don't know the effects of legislation. So I think that's the two components from my perspective.
I think, kind of almost piggybacking on, you really hit on all the themes and components, but I think the reason why black men don't vote is based on the themes of course, the first is just a lack of knowledge, a lack of representation, and a lack of empowerment. And the reason why I say that, consciously and unconsciously, most black men already have this preconception and preconceived notion that, and if I can make it plain, the system is against them, okay? And there's a lack of knowledge of that we are enabled and empowered to hold systems accountable. So if I'm already have this preconceived notion, whether it was passed down through generations, passed down in family structures and environment, that the system is not in my favor, then I almost feel less empowered. Why should I vote when things are already less in my favor? I can't make it better, and so I'm not looking. I'm not adamant to look to make it better, to add to it. And like I said, the second issue is representation, and when I don't see representation on the other side to help hold these systems accountable, that's another reason that may, in a sense, not make it as adamant for a black man to actually vote.
I'm going to tell you, I have a different understanding, a different take as to why a lot of black men don't vote. And I hate to say this, but I think as you've heard in during this political season, people talk about being politically correct. Well, I want to be politically incorrect as it relates to a lot of black men. I think that much of what is said up here was true, but if you are a felon and you've served your time, even though it may be difficult, you can appeal or you can file to have your voting rights restored. And I think a lot of the things that affect our people is that I really hate to say this, but I love our people to death, but we just don't do what we're supposed to do in many instances. You know what I mean? I mean, we need to be a little more aggressive, and I'm older than everybody up here probably together, and I remember back in the day when blacks, back in the 50s and 60s, you see some of the newsreels and everything, you see the blacks who are just marching and doing everything, so they can get the right to vote. Now that we have the right to vote, some people just take it so cavalierly and they feel that they don't have a voice, but you'd be surprised you do have a voice. And you individually may not have a voice, but if you bring everybody together, you'd be surprised what kind of a voice that you have. Like, I'll give you an example. One of our candidates, I'll mention Andrea Bailey for an example. She was the Democratic, and I'm a Republican, but I'll say this. She was a Democratic nominee down in Potomac District. She lost by 500 votes. And I'm sure there are enough people there that could have pulled her over if they got out and vote, And I think that, and I ran up in Occoquan District, and I probably miscalculated the demographics. I'm sure I did, but I think that other folks, they see the handwriting on the wall in terms of what's going on in the country, how the demographics are going. So I think they are doing everything they can, and you'd be surprised. The most powerful weapon that we have for change is your vote. Is your vote, and I think that's one thing. And another thing, and I'll close, is that when I listen to some of our quote-unquote black leaders talk, they're a little bit too negative. Sometimes you can be so negative that you discourage people to even being a part of the system. You know what I mean? I remember you can't do this, you can't do that. The system's against you, and da 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 da. But the system may be against you, but you can change the system through voting. So I just think that we need to do that, and I would like, and one reason why I'm glad to be here is because I would like to do whatever I can do to get more of our people out there to vote, because that's very important.
I think you guys hit on some key points. As I look back over my life and look back over before I even got involved in local politics, I never voted for a local candidate. Never got involved in local politics. And it boiled down to lack of knowledge, one, but two, I was apathetic to the political system. Harriet Tubman had a quote that I love, and I take it near and dear to my heart. She said, "I could have freed more slaves. The only problem is they didn't know they were slaves." And so the issue I found out as I began to campaign, as I knocked doors, is that people were told they were so apathetic and numb to the system where they didn't want to get involved. Like, at most times you talk to another black man and he like, it don't matter anyway, they gonna put in office who they want to put in office. And say they don't feel like, and the day I realized that I really had a voice and opportunity to make a change is when I realized I had to become the solution to my own problem. And so what I've been finding as I go from community to community, especially in these heavily urban, these high density communities that I knocked a lot of doors in, I found that most, especially young black men, are having an identity crisis. They really don't know who they are. They try to identify and put on somebody else's name or identify with somebody else.
Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time. Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time. Talk to me now. Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time. Tell me what's on your mind, baby. This time. BarTalks.